Hi guys, it's Mr. Hewitt here. So now that you're done with the annotated bibliography and you have all of your sources, you have your opinion on the topic, it is now time to start organizing an outline for your topic. We've gone over basic outlines for argument essays and to a lesser extent text analysis before, so it's nothing new. But like I said, I always use the same silly metaphor. If you don't outline, it's kind of like painting yourself into a corner and you have to redo all the work. So I provided this very same outline you're seeing on the screen right now on the Harbor under research paper topics. Okay, so I'm going to kind of scroll through this introduction so you can kind of see how I do it and how I'm thinking. So if you look at it, what do we have here? We have the introduction where you just provide the thesis statement. You've already done that, so it's just copying and pasting. First assertion topic sentence. I'm going to review how to do that. Second assertion topic sentence. You'll notice under each assertion and topic sentence it reads A and B. If you're not sure what that means, I bet you can kind of figure it out if you stop and think about it. It probably means, wait for it, evidence / your additional points. Because if you're making an assertion up here, you have to back it up down here. Think about it in terms of like a silly argument that I always hear in a hallway in a cafeteria. If someone makes a claim that PlayStation is the superior gaming console, you need to back it up with some sort of evidence. There, and it goes right here, right? Of course, we all know that PlayStation is inferior to Xbox, but that's not the topic of today's lesson. And then so look, you're going to have at least one assertion, topic sentence, second assertion, and third. But Mr. Hewitt, does this imply that a research paper is only 3 body paragraphs? No, it does not. Your evidence could actually be 2 separate body paragraphs. This A and B could be 2 separate body paragraphs. You might even have a C. Think about your assertions as sections and not individual body paragraphs, okay? So let's start. Let's go back up to the thesis statement. Let's say this was your thesis statement, all right? Let's take a look at this for a second. If your thesis statement was, I'm going to pop this down. Even though, let's clean this up a bit. Even though a driver is just changing a song on Spotify or readjusting their GPS, cell phone use while driving should be restricted because it also causes more pedestrians to be struck by vehicles and it impairs drivers, causing an uptick in vehicle collisions over the last 15 years compared to the previous generations of data. I used a really simple thesis statement. I don't think anyone's writing this essay, and I don't think anyone would argue it because it's so simple, but it is a tutorial here, so I want to keep it as simple as possible. So what we're arguing here is that driving while playing with your cell phone is bad, right? So the thesis statement already has my assertions. Assuming the thesis statements you sent me a month ago were good to go, you already have most of the work done here. So look, the first assertion is that, where is it? It should be restricted because it causes pedestrians to be struck by vehicles. I'm not going to just copy and paste that because the phrasing is not going to translate well into a new sentence. I'm going to have to kind of rewrite it for my first. So I'm going to use really simplistic language. So let's say I want to restate what my whole topic is about. Drivers. I'm going to delete this. Drivers should not be permitted to get rid of this. Use their cellular devices while driving because it causes it actually, you know what? It has led to an increased what's the word I'm looking for? An increased number, let's keep it simple. This is bothering me. I'm going to bold this. An increased number of pedestrians struck by vehicles since the inception of cell phones in the United States. So look at this. Gotta clean this up. All right, drivers should not be permitted to use the cellular devices, right? So notice I'm rephrasing the whole point of the research paper. There's nothing wrong with that. While driving, because it has led to an increased number of pedestrians struck by vehicles since the inception of cell phones in the United States. It is not the exact same phrasing as what's in my thesis statement, but it's still the same argument. That's okay. So in this whole thing, what I'm doing is I'm arguing it, for a couple paragraphs or maybe one gigantic paragraph. It really depends on your style of writing. That pedestrians struck by vehicles since the inception of cell phones in the United States, we have a higher number. So my first article from my annotated bibliography was the John Smith article. This is how we're doing it. Okay. Just delete that. The John Smith article from 2012, where he argues that he shows the rates of pedestrians struck by vehicles in the 1990s much lower than the rates of pedestrians struck by vehicles from 2005 onward. So this article mainly talks about this. This is my first assertion. You can obviously, this evidence clearly connects to this, right? So I would have to argue this and explain this. I think it's pretty obvious. So my second article is from a psychologist. So psychology article on how the brain cannot focus on a conversation while driving. And this was Johnson in 2004. And this was an article that was essentially suggesting one of many things, that when people are having a conversation in a car, it's very different than having a conversation in a cell phone, because in real life, when two people are in the same car and there's a dangerous situation going on, people naturally stop talking and kind of let the driver do what they need to do. But while they are on a cell phone, the other person speaking to the driver has no idea what's going on the road, if they're driving 80 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, stuck in traffic, and that person ends up carrying out the conversation, which is distracting. And this article goes into the psychology of that, right? So that's done. Boom. Look, second assertion right here. Moving on. Now we have to go back to my thesis statement, because you might say, Mr. Hewitt, I don't know what else to say. Go back to your thesis statement. What was your second point? My second point was that it impairs drivers, causing an uptick in vehicle collisions. Okay, so I'm going to write that right here. Drivers who participate in, using their cellular devices while driving have been the subject of a majority of vehicle collisions in the United States since 2005. Okay. Now, you might say, well, Mr. Hewitt, that topic sentence doesn't really look like an argument, but it is, because, oh my goodness. Let's fix that. Drivers state using cell phone. It is an argument. I'm just stating it like it's a fact. So obviously I would, just like I did in the previous assertion, I would back this up with my other two articles, which argues and proves that a majority of the driving fatalities and accidents are caused by distracted driving on cell phones. Notice I did not just say deaths. I use the phrase majority of vehicle collisions, so I could talk about deaths, and I could also talk about minor collisions. Deaths caused by cell phones. And this was a Zerg article from 2011. So that's the strongest piece of evidence. I'm leading with it. And now also I'm going to use minor accidents that led to higher insurance rates. And this is also by Johnson, 2008. So what I'm leading with is the death article, because of course you want to lead with your strongest evidence, which is all about death. And next I'm going to talk about the minor accidents, because why not? It's not all about death. It could also be about minor accidents, and it causes us more money because more people are crashing. And that's how you do this. After this, your third assertion, well, guess what? This is your counterclaim if you choose to use one. And mine is the first dependent clause or subordinate clause that starts my thesis statement, even though a driver is just changing the song on Spotify or readjusting the GPS. I am going to attack this idea. Just because someone is playing with their phone for a noble reason, using GPS, or hey, maybe you're bored of a Spotify song, that's not a good enough reason to use your phone. And that's how I'm going to attack it right here. And I'm not going to type that one in because we're already hitting a 12-minute mark, and I think you guys get the point. Counterclaim. You're going to fill out this part of the outline the same as the two I did before this. All right, guys? Feel free to message me on Slack or by email if you have any questions and need help. All right. See you.